painters, welcome back to the Painting Marshal Helbrecht Blanchitsu paint along or tutorial or whatever you want to call it. This is session 2. It's structured loosely, so again I might repeat myself during this video because I do record little small snippets and then put them together later, but this time I have a rough plan at least. So first let's take a short look what we did in the last session. Mainly we did the base coats on the robe and the armor. For color references, check the last video. I have prepared for this video that part of the bolt pistol here with the hazard striping. We will tackle that in this session on the power claw, and here on the back I've done a little bit on the cloth and the armor. These two will follow either towards the end of this session or in an extra video. And before we go into painting the tabard here, I'll show you what color I used, and we have a closer look at the original artwork that I want to render here in miniature. So here's the original artwork from the Warhammer 40k tabletop game from the year 98. This is my original copy that I bought with my best friend back in these days. First journey into the Grimdark. And let's focus on that guy here, who probably is supposed to be Marshal Helbrecht in his early years. Or at least that's what I will assume throughout this videos. So let's focus on the rope, and let's have that Templar cross freehand for someone else. The main colors are cream to almost around the bottom. There's cream is the top color, whereas right to the face we go to more white. I think we'll go gray sear or maybe even Corax white. We'll have to adjust to the armor and face and all the parts lying around. And let's see if we can get a little bit closer. And you might see that the shadows over here are mostly grey and rather light. We have a deep black shadow here to get the contrast between the robe and the white shoulder pad, whereas down here we have reflections from the fire and a more brownish hues and damage to give the whole thing more texture. We also have border here at the sides with little, there's actually letters on it, and I don't know if you can see it clearly in the areas around here, and over here we have a small hint of blue. Yeah, and that's basically where we wanna go with this. So as you can see in the picture, I always keep the reference at the top so I can see it clearly. You have my paint pot over here, and you also will have the paper towel so you can see hopefully can see what I do with the brush when cleaning. This time we also have the wet palette and hopefully it doesn't fuck up the white balance too hard. So you should see what I do on the model. I will zoom in a bit. I think like that would be okay and good, so you can easily follow what I'm doing on the rope. As mentioned before, we used Stormvermin Fur as the base color for the rope, and I have applied only one layer to the sides, so we have the black base coat shining through and 2 layers on top. We'll also need Corpse Black for deeper shadows, and maybe Dawnstone for highlights, and then Grey Seer. That would be the other 4 main colors. And as said before, we will skip the Templar Cross freehand. We will apply that later on. I also at the moment paint with an Artis Opus Series S size 1. I might skip to a size 3 during this video, which has the same fine tip but a much larger belly that usually will allow me to paint bigger areas. So maybe we'll even directly switch to that to get the bigger outlines of the ropes covered more easily. Let's get started. So I've put Corpse Black, Dawnstone and Grey Seer on my palette. I personally prefer my wet palette not too wet, so I soaked up a little bit of the top moisture with a paper towel. I'll give that Grey Seer a bit more extra water so it doesn't dry out that soon, but I don't want super thin paint when starting to lay out the ropes, the main part of the rope. I want to keep that part on the left here rather dark, so I'll focus on the front. And while there, you might argue that the shadows on the front around the bottom here might go deeper. I don't want that to happen because the front needs to be quite light, especially when we have that dark Templar Cross freehand on it later. I might go a little bit more to the side here, but I really want to have that clean shadow over here. You might also notice that I try to paint that light area towards that fold here, and I skip the underside of that fold and leave that in shadow. And I've learned that's something you have to do so it looks good and so that it does look natural, and you quite can't achieve that effect with a wash. because usually if you paint ropes the heavy metal way, or the regular tabletop way, let's call it that, you would apply a lighter base coat, like in this case probably downstone, and then put a wash onto the miniature. And no, you can't see it, but you probably can imagine the deepest area on the front of the robe is like here is the middle of the fold. But if we put the wash onto that front piece, it will all pool downwards. So we'll have the darkest spots around here, and around here where the fold skips. If you put the wash onto the model and lay it on its back to dry, the wash will pool in the deepest recesses. But as we want the darkest shadow to be right here below, you would have to keep the model upside down. And even then, you have no control where the paint, where the wash will flow. So we will do that artificially. Okay. So we'll also I think we'll focus on that part over here and skip the bottom part. The bottom part you can also see where the highlights would need to go. I'm just outlining them right now. We have that edge over here, that main big fold, and now you could already skip that part down here, but I think we'll give it just that little amount of white, because we will need a rather big area around the bottom to get the battle damage and that orange brown glow down to it. Now to Corvus Black, which is a real dark grey, and I'm going to deepen the shadows a bit. Especially around here. I think you can clearly see that staying below that line where the fold actually folds with only a little bit of dark grey sells the 3D effect very well. I also try to, let's have a bit of Stormvermin fur again, to get a little bit of texture down here and there, not too much. But especially around here where the trick with applying texture here is, and this might sound obvious, but I didn't I did know it, or it sounded obvious to me when I first heard it or thought about it. Dark areas need light textures and light areas need dark textures to make them pop the most. Let's say that there are different ways, but in that case, and in case of the Black Templars in general that I paint for that Blanchitsu diorama, you have always dark areas. You can see it especially on the armor, where the biggest dark parts are. There are light textures with in this case with the brown, and when I have the lightest areas in my highlight zones, I will come up to that later. The texture is not only built up with that light color that makes up the highlights, but also with darker dots and scratches that work as contrast. So our last color in will be gray seal for the moment, as we go quite light already, and in this case, as I want to emulate the look of a tattered robe, let's go over here, I apply, let's say a base texture with a little bit of stippling and scratching, and I'm trying to get the edge highlight over here, and then I'm leaving that middle area here to the original Dawnstone color, and then try to hit that fold line where the shadow begins with the gray here to get most out of the contrast. It will make no sense to paint scratches into that shadow, because there would not be enough light to catch them. Usually having a close look at the miniature while you paint it, your desk lamps will automatically give you the right hint where to place highlights. And the rest is practice. And not a small part is actually painting it so that it looks good. If it is realistic or not, in the end, it has to look good on the miniature. Like that edge highlight down here, the rope definitely would not get that much light down in that area, but I needed to frame the rope to make it more readable. We'll skip that dark part over here, and I also forgot to remove the head, which is already finished, and I really don't want to get a smudge of paint onto it during that session. So excuse us for being headless. Yeah, that's basically the ropes done. Just the base colors and base textures of the rope done. I've been going a lot darker at the back, also because it's the bottom of the miniature, so there's more shadow to it. And we also have these brown spots and yellowish dots that we have in the artwork too, but we will apply these after the freehand, after the Templar cross freehand.